What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, I had to share this with you, and I figured I would spin it and just turn this into my prediction video for Gennady Golovkin versus Daniel Geale. And I'll just kill two birds with one stone, if you will. First, before I start talking even more, shout out to my girl Marilyn. Awesome job. She's the one that sent the pictures to me. And this was from Gennady Golovkin Triple G's media day. So they're preparing for their fight. I'm looking forward to it. It's a good card. You have the rescheduled Bryant Jennings versus Mike Perez. And I remember I was out in Oakland when I got news that the fight was canceled between Bryant Jennings and Mike Perez. And I was like, fuck. I was at a restaurant at this little seafood place. And I was like pissed. And then my girl was like, what's wrong? And I was just like, I'm annoyed that this fight got canceled. So I'm glad to see that it's up and running and back on. And then you got Gennady Golovkin facing arguably his toughest test as a professional, and not really saying the most. That's not really saying much based on the level of competition. But one thing can be said. One thing I really respect about Gennady Golovkin, aside from his fight game, is he stays active and he stays busy. This is probably the longest we've been without seeing him in the last year or two, and that was because of bereavement. His father passed away, and you can tell by the picture from my girl Marilyn, it looks like maybe his father passing has awoke the beast, because this is the best shape that I recall Gennady Golovkin looking in. He looks like he's extremely lean. Golovkin, he's usually good, but there's times where he just looks, he just carries power, it looks softer, but right now he looks lean. Like you could kind of see his ribs, but not in a bad way, not like he's malnutrition and starving or anything. And he looks really good, like he looks like he's in good shape. So, nah, I know, I'm in good shape. Max, you all right? No, so that's good. It sounds like he's focused from what I've heard, and that's from one of his sparring partners. I told you guys that in a previous video. One of his sparring partners said he looks real good and he looks focused. He hits hard. We all know that. And these pictures are evidence of what I told you in that video. Remember I made a video about Tyson Fury's training camp, Gennady Golovkin's training camp, etc. And I told you about the conversation I had with Triple G's sparring partner in Big Bear. So it looks like everything he told me in that video or at that time is true, because he looks like he's in tremendous shape. Now on to my prediction, Triple G versus Daniel Geale. If you follow my boxing Instagram at Boxing Ego, you'll know I posted probably a couple pictures regarding this fight, and I've always maintained Triple G as the victor. I don't see it going Daniel Geale's way. Some people are like, oh, it's the toughest test he's faced. Don't give a shit. Don't see him winning. I'm not trying to slander Daniel Geale. He's a tough Aussie, and he comes to fight. He has heart. He showed you all of that in the Darren Barker fight if you watch that fight. However, being punched by a Darren Barker and being punched by Triple G and his well-placed shots, including body shots, is totally different, night and day. You've seen what happened in Darren Barker's last fight. He was stopped, and Triple G's a different animal. I think he's the best middleweight that's out right now. I would pick him to beat Sergio. Obviously, Cotto beat him. I would pick him to beat Cotto. Now, some people are going to dispute that, like, fuck you, Ego. You hate Cotto, or just dumb shit. Sometimes some of you guys hear one thing and you assume that I don't like Cotto's one of my favorite. Let's be honest. But I can also be real with myself and think internally for myself. I don't need Max Kellerman. I don't need Jim Lampley. Or I don't need Paulie Malignaggi to think for me. Ego thinks for Ego. And I don't see Miguel Cotto having his way with Triple G. I think he's bigger. And it's a difference. Sergio was bigger too. But we knew Sergio was the wild card because it was all dependent on how Sergio looked after injuries, after long layoffs. Triple G's been active, as I mentioned earlier in this video, so that's a different ball game. Plus, in my opinion, Triple G has more power. He looks like a true middleweight, whereas Sergio Martinez was a guy who was forced out of 154 because he couldn't get fights after the Paul Williams knockout, and he had to search for opponents, and the big money fights were in the next division up, so he moved up in weight. Big difference. Triple G fits nicely at middleweight. He fills out more. So it's just a different fight from Cotto and Sergio Martinez. Sergio's strengths and where Sergio was with his career is not where Triple G is. So, again, I see Triple G beating every middleweight. You know what I mean? if he were to fight Peter Quillen, if he were to fight David Lemieux, I see him beating all those guys. Now, I'm not saying none of those guys can't trouble him, pose any problems. I just see him beating them. I don't think he's going to truly be tested unless someone new comes about that I'm not familiar with, or they just start looking super impressive or something. I don't really think he'll be tested until he goes to 168, truthfully. I think that's where, guys can handle his power maybe a little bit more. He might not have the reach advantage, different variables like that. But Triple G, Geale, it's a good fight. It's a good fight on paper. Like I said, Geale is a tough guy. He's a tough customer. He comes to bring it. I think there's leagues and there's levels to this shit. And I think Triple G is next level to Daniel Geale. He's not the same as a Darren Barker. Like, if you look at Darren Barker, if I'm not mistaken, he fought Adama. And then you watch how Triple G disposed of Adama. It's just a different level. Like, other fighters, and I don't believe in the triangle theory or whatever 100%, because just because fighter A has success with fighter B doesn't mean fighter C will. But you got to look at the whole picture, and the whole picture is you're going the distance with an Adama, and Triple G's in there, and he is superior to you in different categories. His power, his amateur background, he's much more of a thinker than people give him credit for. I've seen some adjustments even in the Curtis Stevens fight. There were some points and some spots where Curtis Stevens was even backing Triple G up. And I think he's underrated in the department of body punching. To get punched in the face is one thing. It doesn't feel good. But to get punched and clubbed in the body with a guy with known power, it's something else. And one thing that I really seen instantly, his very first fight in America with Triple G, he was fighting Grzegorz Proska, and he had his man hurt. He knew that. And instead of doing like other fighters who don't have the same experience, like even a Kareem Mayfield, that's the homie, but I'm just using him as an example. Kareem Mayfield sometimes smothers his work. Whereas Triple G, watched that fight with Grzegorz Proska, and Triple G had his man hurt on the ropes, and the dude was trying to stay out of harm's way, if you will. Triple G took a breather, a step back, and then started placing body shots. Like, that's the sign of somebody who's been in there before, who has that veteran experience, to know not to smother your work, and instead of letting the moment get the best of you and not knowing what to do and possibly getting countered to death, he took a moment. Like, Grzegorz Proska wasn't really in a position to throw back. He took a space back, and instead of smothering his work, he started unloading some like long range body shots to really get him out of there. And then shortly after, if you watch the fight or the highlights to the fight, you'll see Grzegorz Proska got knocked down and eventually stopped in that fight. So he's much more of a thinker than people give him credit for. A lot of times, if you have brute force and you have that type of power, you automatically by default get labeled a power puncher. You know what I mean? And people question your overall ring IQ. I think Canelo is another guy like that. I think he has power, but I think he's much smarter than solely having power. I think Canelo can outbox certain fighters. Maybe not a Edeslandi Lara, maybe not a Mayweather, because when it comes to boxing, they're the best at like just boxing, movement, giving you different looks and guys like that. But if you're just an average boxer or you're a brawler, he's going to outbox the shit. Look at Canelo versus Angulo. So I'm not trying to get too sidetracked. I see Triple G winning. Before, I was like, I don't know, will it be a stoppage? Will it be a decision? Because I want to give the benefit of the doubt to Daniel Geale because he's tough. Honestly, I really feel it's probably going to be in a late stoppage. I would say rounds 8, 9, or 10, whenever Triple G knocked out or stopped Curtis Stevens, right around there. Daniel Geale, like I said before, he's game. He's going to come to bring it. He might even look good in spots, but I think Triple G is going to control the distance, land those body shots, probably stop him via a body shot, or hurt him from a body shot, and then maybe finish it by going upstairs. I just see a late stoppage. If anything, if it does go to the scorecards, I really see Triple G. There's not going to be any controversy. It's not going to be like Canelo versus Lara, and some people are like, fuck you, Lara won, fuck you, Canelo won. I think we're going to clearly know who the winner is. I think he's going to be that dominant, probably some knockdowns, or a knockdown, at least one. And it's going to be a clear and concise. We're not going to have to worry about no bullshit and judge robberies and shit like that. I just really see Triple G all the way. That's my prediction. Let me know what you guys think, Triple G. Let me know what you think of the media day pictures. I think he's in great shape. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.